My name is Clara, and when I think back to high school, I don't just remember the awkwardness, the endless assignments, or the excitement of football games. I remember Evan Miller, the boy who made my life feel like a constant nightmare. He wasn't the stereotypical jock bully who shoved kids into lockers. He was far smarter and more manipulative than that. Evan had a way of humiliating me in front of everyone without even lifting a finger, using sarcasm, cruel jokes, and that charming smile that made teachers think he was just joking around. To them it looked like harmless teasing, but to me it was daily torment. He nicknamed me Clarinet because I was in band, and while that doesn't sound terrible, he found a way to make it sting by turning it into a running gag. Soon the whole school laughed whenever I walked by, as though my entire identity was reduced to a punchline. I thought leaving high school behind would mean leaving him behind too. I graduated, packed my bags, and swore I would reinvent myself in college, far away from the shadows of the past. When I arrived at Weston University, I was nervous but hopeful. My roommate, Jenna, was sweet and outgoing, and for the first time, I felt like I might actually be able to have the kind of social life I had missed out on. The campus was buzzing with activity, clubs recruiting new members, people lounging on the quad, professors handing out syllabi that seemed impossibly long. I told myself that this was a fresh start, a blank page. That first week, I joined a study group for Intro to Psychology, excited to meet people who might one day become friends. I walked into the library, found the table, and froze. Sitting there with his arms casually draped over the back of the chair was Evan Miller. He looked older, sharper, dressed in a way that screamed confidence, but the smirk was the same. My heart dropped into my stomach, and I almost turned around, but he caught my eye before I could move. "Clara?" "Wow, long time no see," he said, as if we were old friends catching up. I forced a smile and sat down because walking out would have been even more humiliating, but inside I felt sick. The group introduced themselves, and Evan played the role of charming student, impressing everyone with his quick wit. I stayed quiet, trying to focus on the material, but he kept looking at me, like he was waiting for me to acknowledge our shared past. Later, when the group wrapped up, he pulled me aside. "You look good. College suits you," he said casually, as if the years of misery he caused me had never happened. I wanted to scream, to tell him exactly how much pain he'd caused, but instead I muttered something polite and walked away. That night, I couldn't sleep. Why was he here? Why did he have to be in my group, my school, my life again? Over the next few weeks, I saw him more often, at the dining hall, in the student union, even once outside my dorm. He always acted friendly, like he wanted to start over, but I couldn't trust him. And yet, there was something unsettling. No one else seemed to know the Evan I had known. Here, he wasn't the bully. He was well-liked, respected, even admired by professors. It was as if I had stepped into some alternate universe where I was the only one who remembered who he truly was. One night, Jenna dragged me to a campus party. I resisted, but she insisted I needed to live a little. I agreed reluctantly, only to find Evan there too, surrounded by people laughing at his stories. When he saw me, he waved me over, and everyone looked at me expectantly. I didn't want to, but I went. He put his arm around me and introduced me to everyone as my good friend Clara from high school. I was stunned. Friend? That wasn't even close to what we were. But everyone smiled, assuming we had history, and for a split second I wondered, was he rewriting the past to make himself look better? Or worse, was he planning something? Because if I had learned anything about Evan Miller, it was that nothing he did was ever without reason. And I was about to find out just how much danger I was in by being near him again. The days after that party left me more unsettled than ever because suddenly people started treating me differently. Strangers who had never noticed me before smiled in the dining hall, classmates struck up conversations, and I overheard someone say, "Oh, that's Clara, she's friends with Evan." It was surreal. In high school, Evan had made me invisible except when he wanted to humiliate me, but now his endorsement seemed to raise my social status overnight. Jenna was thrilled. "See? This is what happens when you actually talk to people. You should hang out with him more," she said, completely oblivious to the way my stomach turned at the thought. I didn't tell her what he had done to me back then. I didn't tell anyone. Part of me felt ashamed, as if admitting I had been bullied would erase this new perception people had of me, but another part of me wondered if Evan had calculated this on purpose, if he knew that claiming me as his friend would trap me in his circle. Because slowly, without meaning to, I found myself in the same rooms as him more and more. Our study group became weekly dinners. Our dinners became weekend hangouts. And every time, Evan played the perfect gentleman, polite, considerate, charming. He even went out of his way to ask me about my classes, my interests, my music. It was confusing. Was he actually trying to make amends, or was this some long con where he built me up only to tear me down again? I kept my guard up, but I couldn't deny something strange was happening. He was being nice, and people liked me because of it. One afternoon, we were assigned a group project in psychology, and of course, I got paired with Evan. My heart sank, but I told myself I had no choice. We met in the library to brainstorm, and for the first time, I snapped. Why are you doing this? Acting like we're friends? You don't get to just erase what you did in high school. He leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable, then quietly said, I know. I was awful. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I was a stupid kid trying to impress people, and you didn't deserve any of it. I blinked, caught off guard. An apology? From Evan Miller? He looked sincere, his voice low and steady. I've thought about it a lot, he continued. I wish I could take it back, but the least I can do is not be that person anymore. My head spun. Was this real? Was he genuinely remorseful, or was this part of his manipulation? I wanted to believe it, but the scars he left weren't so easily erased. You can't just apologize and expect it to go away, I said, and he nodded. I don't. But maybe I can prove I'm not the same guy. That night, I lay awake replaying the conversation. For the first time, I wondered if I was clinging to the past out of fear, if maybe people really could change. Over the next month, Evan kept showing up in ways that made it harder to hate him. When Jenna got sick, he brought soup to our dorm without being asked. When I struggled with calculus, he helped me through it patiently. And one night, after a late study session, he walked me back to my dorm even though it was out of his way. Old habits, he said with a sheepish grin, and for once it didn't feel like mockery. Against my better judgment, I began to relax around him. And then something happened that shattered my fragile sense of safety. One morning, I found a note slipped under my dorm door. It was written in messy handwriting, and signed, but the words made my blood run cold. You don't know who he really is. Stay away from him before it's too late. I froze, rereading the note over and over. Who had sent it? A jealous ex? A rival? Or someone who knew a side of Evan I hadn't seen yet? I tried to shake it off, but the warning gnawed at me. That evening, at dinner, I studied him closely. He laughed with friends, told a funny story, and everything seemed normal, but now I noticed little things I had missed before. The way his eyes lingered too long when someone mentioned high school. The way his jaw clenched when people praised him. The way he kept steering conversations away from his past. It was like there was a whole version of him he was carefully hiding. Later, when we were alone, I asked casually, "Do you keep in touch with anyone from back home?" His smile faltered for just a second, so brief I might have imagined it, before he shrugged. Not really. College is a fresh start, right? But the way he said it didn't feel casual at all. It felt like a warning. That night, I put the note in my desk drawer and locked it. I told myself it was probably nothing, maybe even a prank. But deep down, I knew the truth. Someone wanted me to know something about Evan Miller. And I had no idea if I was ready to find out what it was. The next few weeks were a tense balance between normal college life and the gnawing feeling that something was off. I tried to ignore the note, tried to focus on classes, friends, and my own sanity, but my eyes kept darting toward Evan whenever we were in public, searching for a tell, a slip, anything that might reveal who he really was. One evening, our psychology group decided to do research at the local coffee shop. I arrived early to grab a table, and to my surprise, Evan was already there, sitting in a corner, laptop open. He waved me over and smiled like nothing was wrong, but I couldn't shake the sense of dread that had been growing. We settled into our project, discussing survey designs and data collection methods, but I noticed something strange. Evan kept glancing at the entrance, almost expecting someone. Every time the bell above the door jingled, he flinched slightly, and I wondered who he was waiting for. Later, when we took a break, I wandered toward the counter and overheard a hushed conversation. Two older students were laughing quietly, but one said, "You know she doesn't know, right? She thinks he's changed." My stomach dropped. What didn't I know? What was Evan hiding? I tried to approach them, but they left before I could ask questions. When I got back, Evan was staring at me, eyes unreadable. "Everything okay?" he asked, and I forced a casual smile. "Yeah, just people watching," I lied, but the unease didn't fade. Over the next few days, strange things started happening. My dorm mailbox was rifled through, personal items in my room were moved, and sometimes I felt like I was being followed across campus. I didn't know if it was paranoia or someone was really watching me. One night, I confronted Evan directly. We were alone in the library, and I demanded, "Why did someone leave that note? What aren't you telling me?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then he sighed and leaned back. "Clara, there are parts of my past I've tried to bury, things I shouldn't even bring up. People I hurt, yes, but worse than that." My heart raced. "Worse? What do you mean?" His face turned serious, and for the first time, he looked vulnerable. "In high school, there were others. I wasn't the only one. Some things I can't explain yet, but I want you to be safe. That's all I'm saying." My mind spun. Safe from him? Or from someone else? The idea that there was more lurking beneath his polished college persona terrified me, but I didn't want to believe that Evan, the boy who had been my tormentor and now my awkward companion, could have enemies, or worse, secrets that could hurt me. Days later, the tension reached a breaking point. During a group project meeting, I noticed someone photographing us from across the quad. When I called out, the person ran, leaving behind a folded piece of paper. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. "Don't trust him. He's not done yet." The handwriting matched the first note. I ran to Evan, nearly shouting, "Who is doing this? Why are they targeting me?" He grabbed my shoulders gently, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen before, panic. "Clara, I told you there are things I haven't dealt with. This is one of them. But I swear to you, I would never hurt you." I didn't know whether to believe him. Every instinct screamed danger, but every action he had taken until now had been protective, even kind. I felt trapped between fear and trust, and the more I tried to untangle the web, the more I realized I couldn't do it alone. That night, I started digging. I searched old yearbooks, scoured online forums, anything that might give me a clue about Evan's past. What I found was chilling. In addition to his high school charm and popularity, there were whispers of darker incidents, people who had disappeared from his social circles, rumors of manipulation, of betrayal. Nothing concrete, just fragments that painted a picture of someone who could be dangerous if crossed. I stared at my laptop screen, the words blurring as panic rose in my chest. And then it hit me, maybe the person leaving the notes knew exactly what I had discovered, and maybe Evan wasn't the only threat. The next day, I watched him more closely than ever, noting the way he avoided certain students, the way he answered questions with careful precision, and the way his eyes darted whenever someone mentioned the past. Something in him had changed since high school, yes, but whether it was for better or worse, I couldn't be sure. And deep down, I feared that the secret someone was trying to warn me about was more dangerous than anything I had endured before. That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront him blindly again. I would find out the truth, no matter what it took. But the more I investigated, the more I realized that Evan Miller had built a life of secrets, and that unraveling even one thread could bring the entire web crashing down. And I had just grabbed hold of the first thread. I couldn't sleep that night. The warnings, the notes, the rumors, it all twisted together in my mind like a trap I couldn't escape. By morning, I knew I had to confront the truth, but carefully. I started by retracing Evan's connections from high school, scrolling through social media, contacting old classmates under the guise of research for our psychology project. Slowly, a pattern emerged. There were people who had disappeared from his life under mysterious circumstances, some who had left town abruptly, some who simply stopped attending school. And then I found her, Madeline, a girl I vaguely remembered from high school, quiet, smart, and fiercely private. She had posted a cryptic update recently, something about protecting those who don't see the danger, and never trusting the mask that hides the past. My heart jumped. Could she be the one leaving the notes? I messaged her cautiously, not revealing too much. Surprisingly, she responded. I'm warning you for your own good. Evan has a history of hurting people, even when he appears reformed. He's not the boy you remember. My hands shook. That message could have been from anyone, but her name and profile matched someone who knew him from high school. I wanted to scream, to confront Evan, but I realized I had to be strategic. I arranged to meet Evan later that evening under the pretense of discussing the group project, secretly hoping to gauge his reaction to what I had discovered. When I arrived at the library, he was already there, smiling warmly as always. I fought to maintain composure. Evan, I need to know something. Was there anyone from your past who had a reason to threaten me? Notes, warnings. His expression changed subtly. The familiar charm was still there, but a shadow flickered across his eyes. He leaned back and said quietly, You mean Madeline? She's been upset about high school. She believes I still carry the same traits, even though I've tried to change. I pressed further, trying to read him. Did you ever hurt her? He hesitated, then shook his head firmly. No. But she thinks I did, and she won't believe otherwise. That's why she's sending the notes. It's a warning, not a threat. She doesn't know you like I do. I would never harm you. I felt a mix of relief and fear. Relief that he claimed innocence, fear because I didn't know if I could trust him, or her. The next few days were a tense dance. Madeline kept sending notes, Evan tried to reassure me, and I felt like I was being pulled between two worlds, one where he was the boy I feared, one where he was the man trying to make amends. Then came the twist I hadn't anticipated. One evening, I followed Evan when he left the dorm, keeping a distance. I expected him to meet Madeline or someone else from his past. But instead, he went to the campus counseling center and met with a man in his 40s. They spoke in low tones, glancing around nervously. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw a folder exchange. My stomach dropped. Who was this man? A counselor? An investigator? Was Evan hiding something serious? The following day, I confronted him again, careful not to reveal I had followed him. Evan, who was that? And what's in the folder? He looked cornered for the first time, then took a deep breath. Clara, I've been hiding more than you think. That folder, it's paperwork from therapy, legal stuff from high school. I had to deal with people I hurt indirectly. It's complicated, but it's the only reason Madeline believes I'm dangerous now. I wanted to believe him, but trust didn't come easy. How do I know you're telling the truth? He leaned in, serious and unwavering. Because I've spent years trying to become someone I can be proud of. I don't want to hurt anyone ever again, especially not you. I studied his eyes, searching for deception, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability, sincerity, and maybe, a chance for forgiveness. But my relief was short-lived. Later that night, I got a message from Madeline, more urgent than ever. You're in danger if you stay close. Don't ignore this. Don't trust him. I froze. The tension was unbearable. Someone had their own agenda, and I was caught in the middle. And the thought that someone was still watching, manipulating the past, made me realize that no matter how far I ran, high school hadn't ended for me. It was following me into college, wrapped up in Evan Miller, the boy who had once tormented me and now held the keys to the next twist in my life. The tension reached its breaking point one rainy evening. I received another note, slipped under my dorm door, and this time the message was short, chilling: meet me tonight. Alone. Or face the consequences. My heart pounded. I debated calling campus security or telling Jenna, but something told me I had to handle this myself. I walked across the slick campus paths, umbrella shielding me from the storm, and arrived at the old abandoned classroom building behind the library. The door creaked open, and inside stood Madeline, her expression fierce but anxious. She didn't wait for explanation. "Clara, you have to leave him alone. He's dangerous. He doesn't change. He manipulates people to protect himself, not you." I stepped forward cautiously. "Then why did he help me? Why did he bring soup when I was sick? Why help with classes?" Madeline's eyes softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. "He can act kind. He can make you think he's reformed. But trust me, it's part of the game. Don't get close." Suddenly, Evan's voice echoed from the doorway. "Clara, stop." He was drenched from the rain, but his eyes were steady. "Madeline, enough. This isn't helping anyone. Clara, she's angry, she's scared, but she's clinging to the past version of me. You've seen the person I am now. Yes, I made mistakes, yes I hurt people, but not anymore." Madeline turned to him, trembling. "I saw the way you treated her back then, and I've been trying to protect her ever since." Evan stepped closer to her, speaking calmly. "And I'm telling you, Clara's safe. The only danger now is letting fear dictate her life." I froze, caught between the two people who had shaped my perception of him, the boy who bullied me mercilessly, and the man who might be trying to change. For a long moment, silence stretched in the stormy room. Then, unexpectedly, Madeline's shoulders slumped. Maybe I misjudged you," she whispered. "But I had to warn her. I couldn't risk not trying." Evan nodded toward me. The tension reached its breaking point one rainy evening. I received another note, slipped under my dorm door, and this time the message was short, chilling: meet me tonight. Alone. Or face the consequences. My heart pounded. I debated calling campus security or telling Jenna, but something told me I had to handle this myself. I walked across the slick campus paths, umbrella shielding me from the storm, and arrived at the old abandoned classroom building behind the library. The door creaked open, and inside stood Madeline, her expression fierce but anxious. She didn't wait for explanation. "Clara, you have to leave him alone. He's dangerous. He doesn't change. He manipulates people to protect himself, not you." I stepped forward cautiously. "Then why did he help me? Why did he bring soup when I was sick? Why help with classes?" Madeline's eyes softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. "He can act kind. He can make you think he's reformed. But trust me, it's part of the game. Don't get close." Suddenly, Evan's voice echoed from the doorway. "Clara, stop." He was drenched from the rain, but his eyes were steady. "Madeline, enough. This isn't helping anyone. Clara, she's angry, she's scared, but she's clinging to the past version of me. You've seen the person I am now. Yes, I made mistakes, yes I hurt people, but not anymore." Madeline turned to him, trembling. "I saw the way you treated her back then, and I've been trying to protect her ever since." Evan stepped closer to her, speaking calmly. "And I'm telling you, Clara's safe. The only danger now is letting fear dictate her life." I froze, caught between the two people who had shaped my perception of him, the boy who bullied me mercilessly, and the man who might be trying to change. For a long moment, silence stretched in the stormy room. Then, unexpectedly, Madeline's shoulders slumped. Maybe I misjudged you," she whispered. "But I had to warn her. I couldn't risk not trying. Evan nodded toward me. See? Everyone has a past. What matters is how you choose to move forward. I exhaled, the tension in my chest loosening just slightly. I looked at him, really looked, and saw sincerity, humility, and a desire to make amends. Could I forgive him? Could I trust him again? The answer wasn't immediate, but in that moment, I realized that holding on to fear was only keeping me trapped. I took a step forward. Okay, I said quietly. I'm listening. I'm ready to see who you are now. Madeline smiled faintly, the storm outside echoing the turbulent path we'd all been through. Just, be careful, she said, before leaving into the rain. Evan and I were alone, and for the first time, we could talk as equals, not bully and victim. He told me about the therapy, the counseling, the years he spent understanding himself and trying to repair the damage he had done. He didn't expect immediate trust or friendship, he just wanted honesty. Slowly, I realized that high school Evan was gone, and in his place was someone who had learned the weight of his actions and was determined to do better. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't instant. But for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe without fear, like the past didn't have to define my present. College was a fresh start, yes, but more importantly, I learned that people can change, that redemption is possible, and that sometimes the person you feared the most might turn out to be a teacher in disguise, showing you how resilience, forgiveness, and courage can rewrite your story. And as I walked across campus with Evan beside me, I realized that this time, I was in control, not him, not the past, and not even the fear that had once consumed me. I had finally reclaimed my life.